Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really massive challenge that pretty much every single organization faces at some point. And that is, how do we actually connect high-level strategy to the daily, ground-level execution? The actual work. I was honestly fascinated to learn how blending lean and agile methodologies, specifically these concepts called Obeya and Gemba, can completely transform not just a company's productivity, but the actual joy people feel at work. So let's jump right into the theory, look at some really practical leadership steps, and check out a fantastic real-world case study. Right off the bat, though, we've got to confront a pretty stark reality. 90%. That's the number. According to David Norton and Robert Kaplan, the guys who created the balanced scorecard, 90% of organizations completely fail to execute their strategy successfully. I mean, that is just a staggering statistic, right? It literally means that all those endless hours spent mapping out the future in closed-door boardrooms, they rarely actually translate into the final product. And that brings us to Section 1, the strategy gap, and escaping the ivory tower. So, the core problem here is that leaders and CTOs, they often get trapped. They get stuck in this metaphorical ivory tower of reporting, KPIs, and OKRs, and they just kind of lose touch with the daily realities of their teams. To close that gap, we need a system. Enter Obeya. Now think of Obeya, which is a lean concept, as the strategic brain of the whole organization. It's a room, whether physical or virtual, where your specific OKRs actually meet your agile heartbeat. It connects the big, high-level goals with that continuous, everyday execution so that absolutely everyone is on the exact same page. But, a brain is useless without senses to understand the world, right? And that is where Gemba comes in. If Obeya is the brain, think of Gemba as the feet and the senses. Gemba is a Japanese term, and it literally translates to the actual place. In the business world, it means the workplace where the value is actually being created. So for a leader, going to the Gemba means finally stepping out of that ivory tower, walking the floor, and observing the real work directly at the source, right where the software is being coded or the product is being designed. Now, I know what you're thinking. Going to the Gemba can sound super intimidating for the team. Imagine a senior leader just hovering over your shoulder while you work. Well, I absolutely love how CTO Thomas Deligny handles this. He uses this incredibly simple, empathetic icebreaker. He just says, I couldn't do what you do. I'd be in big trouble if I had to do it myself. It's brilliant. It instantly establishes psychological safety, proving that this Gemba walk is about observing and fixing processes, showing genuine respect, and uncovering obstacles. It is absolutely 100% not about micromanaging or evaluating someone's skills. Okay, so how do we actually pull this off? There is a really strict 4-step protocol that leaders use. Step 1, you have to deliberately free up time in your calendar. We're talking once or maybe twice a week. Step 2, identify the person you're going to observe. It's usually best to start with someone who's confident and open to experimentation. Step 3, announce your approach clearly. This is a big one. You want to give 3 days notice so there are absolutely no surprises. And finally, step 4, the walk itself. The whole thing takes about an hour and 15 minutes. You break that down into a 5-minute icebreaker, a solid 55 minutes of silent observation, and then a 15-minute debrief. Now, during that 55-minute silent observation phase, what is the leader actually looking for? Basically, they're watching a specific work unit. Maybe it's fixing a bug or building a new feature. The whole goal is to quietly identify the exact moments where the developer is creating value versus the moments they hit waste. And waste could be anything. It could be incomplete specs, struggling to deploy something, or even just hesitating because they don't dare ask for help. It's all about seeing the real ground-level obstacles that are blocking delivery. Things you could literally never spot on a spreadsheet, no matter how fancy your reporting tools are. Of course, that brings up a really good question. How does any of this work when we aren't even in the same room? Let's look at Section 2, the remote reality, mastering the virtual Gemba. With so many teams distributed all over the globe right now, you might be wondering if a Gemba walk is even possible anymore. The short answer? Yes, absolutely. But it definitely requires some adaptation. Think about the traditional physical Gemba, walking the factory floor, looking at physical boards. Now compare that to the virtual Gemba. In the digital world, you're using screen sharing to look at the actual code and agile planning tools to visualize the whole process. You might even leverage 5G streaming or 360-degree video. But here's the catch. Because you're losing out on those subtle physical, nonverbal cues, leaders really have to combat Zoom fatigue. You have to ask really well thought out questions to truly understand the process and keep the whole interaction insightful and engaging. All right, let's see how all of this builds into something truly spectacular in Section 3, the proof, taking a look at the Menlo Innovations case study. So, meet Menlo Innovations. This is a software company founded by Rich Sheridan and James Goebel, and they basically built it out of sheer frustration with the standard burnout-heavy culture of the tech industry. What's really cool is they intentionally avoid all that typical lean or startup jargon. Instead, their explicit stated goal from day one was to create a truly joyful enterprise. Literally, a place that they, their team, and their customers would deeply, truly love. And spoiler alert, they've won a ton of awards doing exactly that. Their whole process starts with deep, deep understanding. Menlo actually employs people called high-tech anthropologists, or HTAs. Working in pairs, these HTAs go straight to the Gemba, meaning the client's actual workplace. They observe the end users in their native environments to deeply understand their pain points long before a single line of code is ever written. From there, they map those ideas into visual mind maps, draw low-fidelity hand-drawn prototypes, and run really rapid tests. Their whole motto is to make mistakes faster through rapid experimentation. It's brilliant. And this next part just brilliantly illustrates their discipline. It's all about the power of one target persona. After they do all this research, they force their clients into a strict solution convergence rule. Basically, the client has to pick just one primary user persona, just one. And they literally tape it to the center of a target board. Why? Because Menlo insists, and they're right, that if you try to build a product that works for everyone, it's going to work poorly for everyone, and you will absolutely get killed in the market. Focus is everything here. Okay, so once that target is locked in, they plan everything out using a highly physical Obeya-style system. They use what they call planning origami, literally folding story cards to represent the number of hours a specific task is going to take. Then they place these cards on a huge grid that matches work pairs to days of the week. It's incredibly visual. A yellow dot means the task is started, an orange dot means the HTAs have checked it against the vision, and a green dot means it's QA approved. They even use a simple string of yarn to track the daily schedule. The rule is, if it's not on the board, it simply doesn't happen. No exceptions. And here is a number that is probably going to shock a lot of people in the tech industry. Ready? 32. At Menlo, work orders are strictly limited to a 32-hour capacity per week per pair. That's it. The rest of the time is dedicated purely to planning and coordination. Implementing this strict limit completely prevents the overloading and burnout that usually just sucks all the joy right out of traditional development organizations. As for the execution itself, that happens through really rigorous pair programming. We're talking 2 people sitting at one computer all day long. And I loved learning this little detail. They actually borrowed the practice of switching partners regularly from airline pilots. It's designed to completely eliminate complacency and break down knowledge silos. Plus, they have to write their automated unit tests before they ever write the actual code, which bakes quality directly into the process from second one. QA isn't just some secondary checking phase. It's central to value delivery. This whole pairing system makes continuous shared learning the atomic element of Menlo's entire culture. Which all seamlessly leads us right into Section 4, the pursuit of joy. So, what is the ultimate purpose behind all of these incredibly rigorous processes? Well, at Menlo, joy isn't defined as just some fleeting everyday happiness. CEO Rich Sheridan defines it as that profound, deep satisfaction you get when you finally win an Olympic medal after years of grueling training. It's the joy of delivering flawless products. Like their work with the Curie cytometers, for example. Their process managed to create complex medical software that was so intuitive, users could run it right out of the box in under an hour. It completely revolutionized the industry. Now that is finding joy through execution. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought, something to help evaluate your own organization. Ask yourself, are your leaders trapped up in the ivory tower of strategy and endless spreadsheets? Or are they actually out there on the Gemba, understanding the real waste and the real value creation? Because bridging that strategy gap requires connecting the brain of Obeya with the feet of Gemba. When you can finally align your high-level strategy with your daily on-the-ground reality, that is when you stop just working and start finding true joy in what you build. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will catch you in the next one.